Welcome. Thanks for joining me on the very first episode of the Growth Leadership Cafe. I'm excited to be here. I'm excited that you're here. My name is Adesoa Ero. I am many things. I am a leadership coach. I am a certified project manager, and so I do projects consulting. I write a lot of funding and grant proposals, program evaluation, reporting, yada, yada, yada. Thanks for joining me. If this is your first time coming across my channel, you're very much on time. It means that you're trying to learn a thing or two about how to build your capacity as a leader. This is a channel that is dedicated to exploring all things personal and organizational leadership, especially for those who are new to leadership positions or new business owners trying to navigate this world of managing projects or businesses and leading people and teams. So welcome. It being the first episode, I thought it would be appropriate to start by really breaking down the concepts of leadership. A leader, many times people use the word leader synonymously with a manager, but they're two different things, but that is not the topic for today. However, it is good to apply both in order to be a successful leader. Okay? Leadership is a very broad concept, and so we're not going to be covering all of it in its entirety in one episode. Okay? However, this specific vlog is to really talk about 3 key areas I want you to explore as you go into the world of leadership or in being in leadership and trying to build your capacity. And these 3 key things I want to talk about today are things that you can apply in any sphere of life that you're in, whether it be engineering or corporate or nonprofit. These are transferable skills that you can use and incorporate in any business environment that you're in. Okay, so stay tuned. When I think about the word leadership, the first thing that comes to my mind is me leading someone or people somewhere. This means that it begins with me. It begins with you in understanding you first before you're able to successfully lead people. So the first area I want you to explore in really getting to know yourself is your personality traits. You probably already know some of this, but in the larger scheme of things, what does that look like? As I mentioned earlier, leadership begins with you. So you need to look inward first in understanding you before you know how to successfully lead other people. This is particularly important because there's just a certain level of self-awareness you need to have to be able to really self-assess, recognize and name some of your strengths, but also some of the areas that you're not so great at. And that's okay. No one is perfect. No one expects you to be able to do everything because you're in a leadership position. Even the great leaders in quote have flaws too. But what differentiates them from everybody else is that they've been able to recognize and leverage their strengths, but also maximize the talents of other people to fill in the gaps where they're not so great at. So, what is your character like? What is your personality like? Because we carry that everywhere we go. So we want to be able to project ourselves in a good, positive way. What is your emotional reaction to things like? Do you go into fight mode? Are you in flight mode? Or are you in freeze? Like, oh no, this is happening. Are you the type of person who's more of a head person? So you're a big thinker, you think about the grand, big conceptual ideas, but you're not so great at really breaking things down into smaller, measurable parts for other people? Or are you a hands person who's very action, task oriented? It's very good for you to know all these aspects of yourself. Or are you the type who's a heart person and who wants to meet everyone's needs? But is that really possible? And how realistic is that? It's important that we know all of these things. All of the variations of this areas that I mentioned right now, they have their pros and their cons. And you might realize that everyone has a combination of many, right? But it's good to know what your dominant traits are. Knowing your personality traits would really help you situate yourself in your business environment. It will help you also identify and recognize the personality traits of the people that you work with, whether it's your team member, your coworker, whoever that is. Knowing this would also help you flag it and identify it when you see it happening. By doing so, you would be better able to carve out a customized approach for interacting with different people. And it doesn't mean that you have preferential treatment or you're unfair. It just means that you are matching people's energy. You're meeting them where they're at and working with them to build their capacity to the level that you want it to be at. But you first have to build you first before you can, pour into other people. I'll give you an example. Person A and person B. Person A has the personality of a hard person, very sensitive. They get their job done, but they're more of a touchy-feely kind of person, a bit sensitive. And say, for example, person A made a mistake and you want to address that mistake and just talk about what the impact or the outcome of that mistake was. And so knowing this in mind, that person A is more sensitive, you want to approach it more delicately, because it could escalate real quick and you don't want that. Neither does person A, right? So in that situation, because they're such a hard person, you can go to them and say, hey, I just wanted to check in with you about X, Y, and Z. What happened really made me feel, or made this customer feel this certain type of way. They understand that aspect because they're such a hard person. They're more emotional, right? So they can connect and relate with that. And so it's easier for them to be able to empathize, identify that, okay, yes, my actions, really impacted this person in this certain way. On the flip side, person B is more of the action task-oriented person. Person B is efficient as well, but has made a mistake. So in approaching person B, knowing this in advance, you can go to person B and say, hey, I noticed this happened, and this is the feedback I'm receiving. This is how it impacted the customer's ability to do X, Y, and Z. Or this is how it impacted the other department's ability to take action. They understand action. They speak that language. So they can understand that, oh yeah, my action or inaction has caused problems for other people to be able to do their job. So in that way, you're really being very deliberate in your approach in communicating with person A and person B. Inherently, you will learn how to tailor your response to match how each person receives and processes information. There are so many personality tests out there. I strongly recommend that you take as many as you can, and it will just give you a fuller, robust understanding of you as a person. Moving on, the second area I want you to explore is your leadership style. There are so many leadership frameworks out there. So again, take as many as you can. However, this one is a tad difficult to do if you've never really been in a leadership position. So if you want to do it before you get into a leadership position or in preparation for one, you can. It's good to know the different types of leadership styles, and you might know to some extent, but for best results, I recommend you do it after you've spent a bit of time, even if it's a couple months being in a leadership position. In terms of leadership style, are you more authoritarian? Just like, hey, you go do this, this needs to be done, this needs to be done. Are you more participatory, where you want to do the same things you're asking everybody else to do? Or are you more laissez-faire, so the hands-off approach, where you say, these are the things that need to be done, I'll let you guys figure it out, I trust your capabilities, yada yada yada? Or are you the type who is more charismatic and you model the behavior you want people to take on and run with? So it's good to know these aspects of you, and you might realize that you have overlap of the different types, and that's okay. But again, it gives you a richer understanding of you, and that way you're also able to see it in other people. And even when you start building people that are coming behind you for other types of positions, or in recommending people for different types of tasks or roles or promotions, you are able to tell what their strengths, so you are able to tell, oh, how well this person would do going into a leadership position, and would that person be able to hit the ground running, or do they need a little bit of hand holding to get things done. But it would definitely make you a better person and help you be more discerning of yourself, but also the people around you. Now, the last point I want to talk about is your communication style. Now, this is a big one. Out of the three that I am speaking about today, this is the biggest, because even if we have certain characteristics or traits that we know are like really bad habits or not, they don't show us in a positive light, how you communicate that matters a lot. And for some people, they're able to mask some of those aspects of themselves if you're really great at that. Some people, they're an open book. Some people, they're more, they have that poker face. You can't really tell what they think, which in many cases can be great, but also it can also make you a tad hard to work with. But anyways, not to delve too much into that, 90% of what we do daily is communication, right? And they say that 80% of our communication is nonverbal. So how you say things matter, the way you say things matter, what you're saying matters, but even more importantly are the things that you're not saying, but your body is screaming, right? So your body language, your gestures, the tone of your voice, your eye contact essentially tells a story that you sometimes maybe don't want people to know. And so this is very important. And when I'm talking about communication style, I'm not really talking about you sending an email versus speaking to someone in person. That's a method. I'm talking about how you come across. If you are not able to articulate yourself in a way that the person who is receiving that information can understand and be able to run with that information, you're not communicating. And sometimes they say the biggest assumption is us as leaders thinking that we've communicated something. Meanwhile, the person who received that information probably did not interpret it the way you intended for it to come across. So, are you more assertive in the way you speak, or a bit aggressive or passive, where you're like, yes and no, but people are really unsure which is which? So it's important that you know how you come across. This is something that everybody should work on, whether you're in a leadership position or not. We need to be better communicators. You probably already know how you communicate. You may have heard this from friends, family, or coworkers. You may have already gotten that, but again, it's good to explore all of this communication style quizzes to really assess yourself and know for sure. The other aspect of communication style I want to speak about is the ability to communicate clearly, promptly, and directly. This is hard. It is, however, teachable. You can learn it. It is a skill you can learn. It takes a while to master, and that's something you'll probably work on progressively as you grow in leadership. It's not something you're going to go to school about and just know how to do. It comes from practice and working with different types of people and personalities. It will make you better over time. If you're unsure of where to begin in all that I have said today, I know it's a lot. I got you. I have a couple links down in the description below where you can take like a communication style quiz or a leadership style quiz or a personality type test. I encourage you to take it and just explore. This brings me to the end of this video. I hope you were able to learn a thing or two. Personally, my leadership style, I feel like, obviously has evolved in many ways, but I have been told I'm a tad assertive. And so even for some people that I know, maybe me coming off a bit too forward, or to them I'm coming off a bit too forward, but I'm just very direct like that. And so sometimes I have to kind of take a step back and, okay, how can I see this differently in a way that this person will understand? So for me, I've also learned that my emotional reaction is when things are happening, I'm a bit quiet. I'm just observing, kind of absorbing what's going on, and I will not react right away. For me, I need to first regulate myself so that I'm not having an outburst or just snapping at people. And I would, if I need to physically remove myself from that situation, I will do that. And, approach the person hours later, because even if you are regulated, you don't know if the person where you're having that issue with is regulated, right? So it's important that you give yourself the time to calm down and give that person time as well to calm down. And people, naturally tend to think about that situation. Oh, how did that go? Could I have done that differently? And so when you're approaching them in a different neutral environment, it's easier for you guys to sit down and have a civil conversation without biting each other's head off, right? So for me, that's my approach. Obviously I'm not always like that. Sometimes I get upset, and I don't have a poker face. If something is bugging me, you can tell that I'm upset, but I'm not going to have like a physical verbal reaction. I might just tell you, is it okay if we talk about this different time? I just need a moment. So for me, that's how I function. I'd like to know, for those who maybe have already been in leadership positions, and what is your style of communicating? How do you respond to those emotionally triggering situations? Let me know in the comment section down below. If you really like this video, give it a like, and better still, click on the subscribe button so you get a ding every time I post a video. Thank you so much for listening today. I will see you on the next episode. Bye for now.